So thank you everyone for being here. I want to also, my name is Mev, and many of you have seen me around. Today, the hat that I'm wearing is from the Wanderground Lesbian Live Library, which is located in Cranston, Rhode Island. We've been in business, or not business, but we've been in existence since 1922. And we also have with us today another OLOC member who is Angela. And I never remember how to say your last name.
Brinskele.
Brinskele, that's what I thought. Okay, Angela, who is also at the June Mazer Archive in West Hollywood. Um, so, Angela, do you want to say anything about yourself before we move on, or you all set?
Oh, maybe just that I've been at the June Mazer Lesbian Archives in West Hollywood for 18 years now. I can't believe it myself. That's about it.
And how long has the Mazer been? That they're like 40 years, 45, 40, 50?
Yeah, the Mazer was started in Oakland in 1981 by some lesbians in the community, and then it kind of ran out of space and money around 85. June Mazer was one of the people who had it moved to Southern California in her house in Altadena, which has since burned down, by the way. And then it was moved into the city building in 89. So we've been in West Hollywood since 1989.
Okay, great. Thank you. So, what we're going to do today is we're going to first talk to Angela, and I'll kind of go back and forth about why archives are important. We'll start there, and then what kinds of things we are looking for in our archives, in ours, and in general, lesbian archives in general. Then we have a slight little activity for you to do, and then we'll talk more about the specifics of how you can gather and organize your stuff as you move forward. So, um, why don't we just start with why archives are important and why do we want your stuff? And Angela, maybe you can talk about that a little bit.
Um, yeah, I think they're very important. I think people lose track of that because sometimes you meet people who've never even been to an archive, and sometimes they just think it's just a bunch of boxes, which it really is a lot of the time. Um, but it really is a roadmap. And I think I should tell you, by the way, I talk to students at college and I tell them, if you want to be an activist, you need to come here because you will find everything you need to know about how to be an activist here. And I will pull out the Briggs walking packet that teaches people how to canvass a neighborhood and change someone's vote by knocking on their door at home and things like that. So it's really so you don't have to reinvent the wheel. And it's our roadmap to the future. I kind of like to think of it that way.
Mm. And I also I hear so many lesbians say, "Well, all I have is books," or "I'm really not that important. I'm not famous. I didn't do anything." And to which I say, forget that nonsense. So basically, my view of a archive, especially community archives, is that it represents the community. And so we're all a part of the community in whatever ways we are, whether we were playing softball in our youth, or whether we are musicians, or whether we're writers, or bakers, or people who fix cars, or whatever it is, we all make up this fabric that is lesbian life, everyday life writ large. There is no one typical lesbian. So anything that we can pull out that shows the fabric of our lives in many ways, I think is also really important. So if you don't, who was that said, if you don't remember your past, then you have no future, I think, whatever that, I can't remember exactly what the
Yeah,
quote
I think
is,
that's
but
it. Or you're
you know,
bound, yeah, exactly. I think that's it.
you're basically doomed if you can't remember your past, like, and don't re and there's things that we can learn from each other. I have so many young lesbians who walk in who say, "How did you do that? Like, how did you make that happen?" I was like, "Well, we rolled up our sleeves, we weren't afraid to be poor, and we just did it because we had to. It was survival. We did a lot of the things that we did, starting bookstores and festivals and all of those kinds of things, because it was important to us and we really wanted to be in community with each other and so on." Um, so at this point, what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen, and show you a quick, so so I can hear you saying, so what kind of stuff do you want anyway? What is it that you want? So I'm going to show some pictures from the Wanderground archive, and then Angela will show you some pictures from Mazer that she put together. And they kind of repeat each other a little bit, but we don't care because sometimes you have to say things more than once. So basically the this thing is called this Zoom is called what am I going to do with all my lesbian stuff? At first we were going to call it what am I going to do with all my stuff, and then we were afraid you all ask us what to do with your grandma's china, which we don't know. So don't ask us because we don't care. So anyway, what am I going to do with all my lesbian stuff? And so just a little bit about Wanderground. People say, well, are you an archive, a library, a museum? Because they get really confused about what they're seeing. And basically, I would say any lesbian archive is all of these things in some way or another. Um, Not a library in the sense that we don't circulate our books and so on, but we do have them available there for people to look at and enjoy. In our case with Wanderground, we are lesbian focused. We basically highlight the New England region, specifically in the years from 1950 to 2000, mostly because that's all the room we have right now. After I'm gone, if somebody wants to broaden that, they're more than welcome to do that. And we're a community gathering space, and we take pride in the fact that we are a community-based archive, which means that at this point in time, we're not connected to any university or other organization or business or anything like that. We are a standalone outfit. So, of course, we hold books, periodicals, and music. And somebody just said, I have boxes of books. And yes, many people have boxes of books, and there are situations in which we might want them, especially if they are rare or unique or one of a kind type things. Um, but for you check with the archive of your choice and see if they want them or not. But what we're really interested in is a lot of other stuff. So this is just the entryway to our archive, and it shows some of the kinds of things that we've been gathering. So things like t-shirts, like your movement t-shirts, places you've been, things you've done, other lesbian things that you might have gathered. So t-shirts is one thing. All those buttons that we used to wear all the time, some people still do, that have some lesbian visibility to them in one way or another. Vintage, one of a kind, lesbian made note cards and postcards. If somebody wrote you a letter on one of these things, or you happen to have them for whatever reason. So there's, the woman playing the piano, that is Olak from Minnesota, that they put those out back in the 1980s, I think, or early 1990s. So those are Olak members from that time period, and they made their own set of cards that they used as greeting cards. Stickers, all kinds of bumper stickers, whether you made them yourselves or you had other people made them, or they were for your business or your festival or whatever it's from, if you have any of those around. Videos and DVDs, homemade videos. Well, actually, those should go to the Lesbian Home Movie Project, but there might be other videos and things that you have that your community made. Posters, banners, things that you made from concerts that you promoted, or activities that you did, or events that you went to, publications that you made. These are some examples of some of the posters. I especially like the one that's signed by Alex and Linda Shear. I mean, that's pretty rare. That's one of a kind. That's really special, and I treasure that thing that we have. But you know what? Really, we want you to get personal. What we really, 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 really want is the personal stuff, the stuff that we know we can't get anywhere else. So, letters, postcards, journals, diaries, calendars, scrapbooks, things that tell your life, that show who you are and what you've been up to and things that you did. Um, Many of you knew Connie Barrett, who recently passed away earlier this year. Her brother sent me a box of her love letters between her and her partner, and they're in the condition that I put them in a clean box, but I haven't even been through them yet because I just haven't had the emotional space to do it. But they are there. A scrapbook that Liz Seaborn made, pictures of her vests that she handmade over a period of time. Oops. Photos of events that you went to, your friends, your potlucks, your rallies that you went to, your protests, things that you did, festivals that you went to, parties that you had, all kinds of photos, things like that, that we really would love to have. And then all the other personal little tchotchkes that you might have been gathering over the years, whether it be mugs or tarot cards, hats, jewelry, all of these different things. Some of you might recognize some of these items. The Aurora 1989 is the softball team that I belonged to back then, and it was signed by all my teammates, and I still hold on to it. And the Naiad press box cutter, can't have too many of those. And then if you were involved with any organizations, flyers, meeting notes, programs, mailing lists, correspondence, anything that's related to a lesbian organization that you might have been participating in, or it doesn't necessarily even have to be a lesbian, maybe a lesbian organization. Maybe you belong to some other leftist radical group that you think could be, that shows your involvement with that group, that could potentially be of interest to some of the archives around. But basically our purpose is to reconnect our lesbian heritages so that we can reimagine and support lesbian futures. So those are some of my examples. And then Angela, do you want to share some of your ideas?
Sure, it's funny, we do have a lot of the same things, but Mev is way better at graphics, and I am really just sharing photos mostly. Let me see. My screen's really small, but let me see if it.
It looks big to us.
Oh, okay. So, hmm, hold on a sec. I just need to move this over, I think. There we go. What do we want? Uh, okay, sorry, hold on. Let me open it so I know I can keep going here. Sorry, the share thing was just in my way of choosing the way we look at these. So sorry, I haven't done this all that often. Um, shoot, maybe if I move it down here. Well,
When you clicked on it before, it came up pretty big. So
okay. Well, I just wanted to be able to go from one photo to the next. So I'm not sure. Okay, let's see. Maybe I'll be able to do that. So one of the things I wanted to, let me just ask real quick. Is there a way I can move the sharing, I mean the, navigator at the top over?
yeah, you can just grab it and move it.
Oh, okay. There we go. That'll really help me. Okay. Yeah, because
I guess we
now
should have
I
practiced this, huh?
Yes, I'm so sorry. I think I got it now, though. Thank
Oh,
you,
there
Mev,
you
for
go.
the
All
help.
right, that's
Yeah,
it.
sorry
There
we
you
didn't
go.
practice. That's Mev's always prepared. Where to go? Okay. Sorry. So, if you have ever done any activism, I'm going to kind of talk about who you were. We are archives of the everyday lesbian. There are famous people who are lesbians, but Ellen DeGeneres, you might even know her blood type. She's so well known, right? So we are really the archive of the everyday lesbian. So if you've been an activist, we would love to have some of your papers as an activist, your t-shirts as an activist, um, and any activism you've done. You've been in pride parades, you've been at the Dyke March. We'd love your photos from that. And the organization's papers, if you were in the organization as a secretary or a board member. If you were an artist, I am going to go over a lot of the same things that Mev did, but just in a different different visuals. So this is Limoges. This is Diane Germain, who you may know because she was a member of OLOC, was a cartoonist, and she was the first one I ever saw to draw lesbian emoji. She called Limoges. If you're an artist, a writer, we would love to have your work. If you have anything from lesbian bars, especially the further back you go, we have so few photos of lesbian bars. This is a very unique one from Carolyn Weathers from the 50s. But mostly, as you know, women did not stand inside or outside bars and take pictures of themselves and their friends in the 50s. So we really don't have a lot of bar photos the further back you go. I've actually driven across town to get something like a Star Room matchbook from the Star Room bar from the 50s. Photos inside the bars from the 50s. Some of you might know this is Pat Bond. And I love this woman has a black eye in this picture. See, fascinating stories we all have. If you played any kind of sports, I'm going to really show you some baseball uniforms we have, just like ones from League of Their Own, but also from different softball groups all over the country. Baseball posters like this. We have many. We would love a lot more of these. If you have anything like that, if you played on a team. Luckily, we had this one team, a woman named Mary Rudd donated the entire team's uniforms. And what that did for us is make us able to display a uniform at all the time. Because if we put it out on a hanger normally and leave it out, it can deteriorate and tear where it's sitting on the hanger. But because we have a whole team of these, we can leave this one out. If you have buttons, um, and they can be about any of these things, activism, same thing with t-shirts. They're about a lot of the same subjects, activism, lesbians, different groups. I love these Dyke to Watch Out For buttons. I had never seen them before I came to the archives by Alison Bechdel, of course. Just really, we have thousands of buttons and we wouldn't mind thousands more. We'd love your buttons. Okay, let me see. There's some more buttons. So now this is more, gosh, this is more personal. If you've ever, this is two women, Carolyn Weathers and her sister on a double date. If you have any photos of you with a girlfriend on a date, if you were ever on a double date, we want to see those too. If you were ever the first woman in a job, if you were ever the first woman, this is a picture of Margaret Porter, and she is the only woman wearing pants because she wore pants when women weren't allowed to wear pants. And she went all over and wrote in her journal how people treated her when she wore pants when it was unacceptable in the 50s. Again, if you're the first woman to do a job, first one hired, or any group of women, you know, you don't have to be number one, but if you were some of the first women ever hired for the railroads or cement trucks, any kind of work like that. If you played football, this is from a professional women's football team called the Toledo Troopers. And that is from Bronco's collection. I don't know if any of you know her. We would love photos of you and your friends. That's another thing we love. No matter what year, we would love those. If any of you were in teaching self-defense or taking self-defense classes, I don't know if you'd have photos, but you might have journals about it. If you were ever at a dojo, it was an amazing thing in the early 70s. Women seemed to open dojos across the United States like they all knew each other, but they didn't. There was some kind of symbiosis where women who were working in the feminist movement just seemed to know that we needed this. And they started dojos all across the United States. So if you were ever at any of those, I put this up because if we did not have journals, we would never know about this relationship between Eleanor Roosevelt and Lorena Hickok. And because those journals and letters to each other, the correspondence between Lorena Hickok and Eleanor Roosevelt, which were not really available and out for you to view until recent times, we would never maybe have known about this relationship. So journals. This is a picture of Pat and Jenny. They have been together for 64 years. if you have been in a long-term relationship, and that doesn't have to be a lover, that could be a friend and an ex-lover, because we know lesbian relationships, often the long-term ones are the ex-lovers more than the present lovers. We would love those photos if you rode motorcycles or did anything else like that. If you were in a group, again, an organization, as Mev mentioned already, this is a major lesbian organization from the 80s in Los Angeles, Connexus. You know what? I love photo booth photos. And we would love to have a bigger collection of photo booth photos, because you got to pull a curtain and you could do what you wanted behind there. And so it seems like a favorite thing that a lot of lesbians did. If you have posters again from different activism or anything else that you did, we collect posters. We love them. One of my favorite things is also scrapbooks. This is just a page from a scrapbook. More scrapbook photos. These VW camper vans, I'd love any photos of anybody who had one, because it seems like a very popular thing in our archive with lesbians. If you published your own book, self-published books we still collect. This is one of them. And if you were in the military, if you're a veteran, you have military history, you were on some of the sports teams, and or whatever you did in the military, we're very interested to have those photos and records, journals, letters. This is another photo from Bunny McCulloch's scrapbook. And then I just put this in here to encourage you to remember that your life and what you did was so important. And I always loved Barbara Giddings, because she said things like this: we were not weird and we're not wrong. We are right and the world is wrong. So that is my whole presentation.
Thank you, Angela, very much. That was, I don't know, you gave more detail about your stuff than I did for the things I showed, but I think that's one of the things that is really important as you're thinking about what you might want to send to an archive, is if there's a story behind whatever it is that you're showing, that could be. I just want to show this one slide again because if I can get it, oops, nope, this is the one. Um, this is a kind of an eclectic gathering of various kinds of art, and some of it's commercial, like women's crafts, or like the Go Fish nail clipper is from the promotional materials from when the Go Fish movie came out, and the way they promoted it was to send nail clippers, because if any of you have seen the movie, you know it's got the scene where they're sitting on the couch clipping each other's nails. So this was their funny idea about how to promote that particular film. But the one up here in the corner that says "one admitted lesbian," that was given to me by a friend who, at some party that they, or some event that they had in someplace in Richmond, Virginia, I think is where it was, where they had some kind of a party, and everybody who was let into the space was called "one admitted lesbian," and you had to show it in order to continue to be in the room. As the story goes. There might be more story behind it, but that, so I think anything that's just sort of got a story behind it, or that is kind of quirky, or a one-off kind of thing, unique. All of those things are really what the archives want. And if you can, even if you don't like, you don't have to write a 500-word essay. Even if you just wrote a sentence, this is because I did this, or this reminds me of the time I did that, or especially like with photos, and we'll get more into how you want to do this stuff, but dating things. Like I can't tell you how many posters I have at Wanderground that have the date but no year. It's like, when did that happen? And we have to do a major research project to try to figure out what the heck year that was. So, if you could give us some clue as to when that happened, that's also really helpful as we're constructing our archives. Anything you want to add
Yeah,
to that,
uh,
Angela?
yeah, we also, we have hundreds and hundreds. We never have enough photos. I'm a photographer, so I want more photos in the archives, personal photos and things. And we never have. Never. Let me stop saying that. We have hundreds of photos with absolutely nothing written on the back. So we don't know where it was taken. We don't know who's in it. We don't know when it was taken. And archivists just have to estimate all of that based on clothing and what looks like the location. And so even just scribbling anything on the back of that photo very lightly, um, so it doesn't go through the photo is fabulous because it helps us so much.
I actually have a story about that today. Gene Arnold, I see, is here with us, and I was going through a box of photos that was given to us from Beth Dingman, who was the publisher at New Victoria, and it's photos from an American Booksellers Association gathering conference, but it was from multiple years, and so we didn't know what years, like I'm thinking circa 1990s, who knows. But one of the photos was Mother Courage Press with Jean Arnold and Barbara Lindquist. And I was like, okay, and I'm looking at this picture that's from the 1990s, and I'm like, which is which? Their names are on the back, but I don't know which is which. And I finally pieced it together, and I think I have it right, Gene. And maybe I'll send you the photos. You could tell me if I have it right. But but that's the kind of the research that we as archivists then end up doing, like asking somebody who knew somebody, like, is this the right person? Is this who this is? If it's in a set of things like that. So any clues that you can give us. So I think right now we're going to pause and we're going to give you 5 minutes. I'll time it. You can, based on the things that Angela and I have already showed you, we hope you have lots of ideas. So if you want to take a few minutes to look around your room or walk around your place of residence, or whatever, just start for yourself, make a list of what you think you might have that kind of fits into all of the things we were just talking about. So, because, I know that for me, I forget stuff. And so oh yeah, I should do, oh yeah. So if you could be specific even about this t-shirt or that photo or this box of letters or that calendar or something like that. Um, Kathy, is that a question about what we're doing or?
All I wanted was the address of where we'll end, if you could put the address in the chat of where to send this stuff to when
All
we,
right, we'll get to that. Thank you, Kathy. We
all right.
actually do have a full list, a catalog of archives for you that we will do at the end. But remind me because I'll forget. But I have it sitting up here on the computer with the link. It's on the OLOC website, and there's a lot of different places where you can send things. And we'll talk about this also. Part of the trick is knowing what's best for you and your stuff, because not all archives are the same, and we'll talk more about that in a little bit. So just take a few minutes to just sort of start jotting down for yourself some things that you might think could go into an archive somewhere. A lesbian archive, even better. Okay, I'll just give you another minute. I hope your lists are long. So I see that Jackie has her hand up. I'm not sure why. Um, but if one or two, maybe two or three or four of you, if you want to share one or two things that are on your list, and then the next thing that Angela and I are going to talk about is how do you save this stuff and where do you send it? So if that's your question, hold on to it because we're going to get to that. Um, Jackie, are you there? She's disappeared, so I don't know. There she is. No, I guess not. All right. Rets, did you want to say something? Hold on to your questions, either put them in the chat or we'll get to them later. But I feel like we really want to get to what it is, how do you put it together? And I just want to say, I want to caution about post-it notes. True archivists who are trained have told me do not use post-it notes because they leave a gummy thing on them. So if you want to use a post-it note, put it on the back or put it on a separate piece of paper or something, but don't put it on the front of the photo. Don't, and if you want to put the year of the poster, put it in the back in the corner in light pencil or something. Never use pen. Please try to use pencil as much as you can. If you ever have been in an archive, they take away your pens and make you use pencils. So there's reasons for that. So so you want to try to maintain the integrity of the object as much as you can. So in terms of I'm going to put up what we have on the Wanderground website that's called Before You Send Your Items. So you can look there, but you want to make sure that things are clean, and not moldy, and things like that. In terms of organizing them, now, so many of us are in our later years. We don't have the energy to pick up heavy boxes. We don't have, we feel like we're running out of time. We want to spend our days doing many things besides just organizing our stuff, which we want to do because here's the thing. I want to organize my stuff because if somebody comes in my house, they're not going to know what it is and it might hit the dumpster. We don't want it to hit the dumpster. So even if you get a banker size boxes is a good size box. If you're going to reuse a box, make sure that it's clean and not ripped up and that has some integrity to it so that you can that it can hold items. Um, put like all your diaries in one box, put all your photos in another box. Or if you have, like, say you went to Michigan for 20 years, put all your Michigan stuff in one box, like organize it in a way that makes sense to you. And then put a piece of paper on the top of the box that says, this goes to blah, blah, blah archive. And this is what's in the box, generally speaking. Archivists love to go through stuff. I don't know what it is, if we're voyeurs or what it is, but we like to go through the stuff and figure it out. And right now, Wanderground has a couple of student interns who are taking their class on archiving, and they're going through the boxes with us, as well as our volunteers. Everybody likes to do something. So, do the best you can. Angela, please take it away. Add something.
Um, Well, let me think. As far as, yeah, I think the same thing here. We have a lot of archivists who are students through the UCLA program, and they're in their last year and they come and work for us, sometimes for free to us because it's through the Mellon grant at UCLA. So they get paid to work 12 hours a week and help us do all kinds of things. One of the first things they do is they might rebox what you send to an archive if needed, and eventually it'll be in an archival box. But also they create what's a finding aid, which is really just simply opening the box and going through every single thing in it and writing it down on a list. And so, if you have tons of free time and you really want to do that, you can, but we will do it if you can't. And really, the information we need from you the most is what we couldn't ever know by looking in the box, right? Like, where was this and who was with you and things like that. So sometimes even an archive will do an oral history or just a recording with somebody when they donate, to say, okay, what is this stuff, and tell me a little bit about it. And once in a while we'll get like maybe a half hour, an hour, and it's so invaluable to do that. Even if we have to do it on Zoom, we can do that too. Anyway, I might have gotten a little far off the topic, but
No, I don't think so. I mean, because like Wanderground just recently had a project where we were called Exploring the Archives, and like you have an object, like I showed you the one admitted lesbian, like by itself, it doesn't really mean anything. It's the story behind it that is so interesting to anybody who's viewing it. Like you could, because I've seen people come in the archive and just say, like, oh, okay, like whatever, but until we actually know the stories behind it, that's what's compelling about anything. So even if you want to like just talk, record it and say, this is, talk about it if you want, or, do a little Vimeo or, something, some way that you'd have a neighbor or a friend or a relative, like they do on that radio show where you interview each other, you just talk about it a little bit, and that, gives some background behind the item. That's part of the story in addition to what we might make up about whatever the thing is. Like this is my softball from when I was in 1989 on this team, and this is what I remember about that person and that person, and or my softball glove. I mean, there's so many stories that could be told. In terms of uh there was something I was going to say. Oh, somebody said like I'm not ready to get rid of it yet. That's fine. That's why we encourage you. Like maybe you drag the box out of you have stuff around the house. You're not done looking at it yet, right? But you want it to go to an archive, or you want your relatives or whoever's going to take care of your stuff afterwards to say, you know what? I want this to go here and that to go there. You don't have to send your stuff right now. If it's not something that you're looking at every day, put it in a box and put a label on the top of the box and say, put it in the back of your closet if it's not anything, but you're not ready to get rid of it yet because you're still looking at it or you still want it near you, or whatever. Mark what it is and say where it should go.
yeah,
Uh,
we at the Mazer, we started what's called a box project, and somebody local will actually give you a box. We'll give you a banker's box you can take home and take your time. And when you want to donate it, you can donate it. But we also put labels on it, and we send labels to anybody who wants them that says this box belongs to the June Mazer Lesbian Archive, so that when you do fill it up, if nothing else is written that says where you want your stuff to go, that box says this person wanted these things in this box to go here. And so I highly recommend that when you do figure out where you want to donate, to put a label on it that says this box should go to. So whoever finds it after you knows exactly what you wanted it to, what to happen to it.
the other thing too is that if you have things that are very big, in actually in all cases, you might, regardless of where you decide you might want to send your stuff, when I put the list up and you can see all the places you could go, that are possibilities. Mostly what this list is a list of lesbian, feminist, and LGBTQ libraries and museums and archives. there might be other places you could think of. Maybe a local history museum. If it's something that's really local that you're doing, maybe there's a history museum in your community or your state that would be willing to have those items. Maybe there's all these books that you all have. Many of us have a lot of the books. There might be some that we don't have, the ones that are independently published or, pamphlets or things like that. We may want those, but books that are, I always kid Angela and she's going to crack me up. I'm going to say Choices by Nancy Toder. But, I mean, if you have copies of things that were really like anything by Catherine Forrest is pretty popular. Most everybody has one copy of at least one of the books. Maybe we don't need that. Um, you could give it to us. In our case, we would say we always try to keep two copies of things, the real one and the backup, that goes off site that we try to store separately so that if something happens, we have the backup. But after a while, we get too much. And so we either sell it off to make a so that so that we get supported, we sell it off or we give it away. Or you could give it to a youth center or an LGBTQ center in your community or your public library. So there's no shortage of places where the books and the newsletters and that can go. Your local public library might not have any lesbian books, and they might like to have a few. You never know. Ask them. But whatever you do, if somebody says, I have a box, I always say, tell me what's in the box. Tell me what books you want to give me if you have a list, or send me some pictures, or because then I can say, save your postage, don't send it to me, or don't break your back bringing it to me because we don't necessarily need that. But if you have something very big, like huge paintings or ceramics or something like that, somebody wanted to donate an art project that she did to us, it would have taken up the whole front room of our archive. Like there's no room for that. So, always kind of check out with whoever you want to send things to if it's something that they can um, actually take care of. Because part of the issue is for us is how do we take care of this? Do we have the right temperature controls? Do we have the space? Do we have the storage? Do we have that whatever it is that's going to maintain the integrity of that object or those objects? That's helpful for us to know ahead of time so we can anticipate. Did you want to say something about that, Angela?
Yeah, that's really helpful because we, as grassroots archives started by the community, we run out of space or funding regularly. So we have to figure out what to do. But I've been told by institutional archives too, like UCLA, that all archives run out of space at some point. We have been told publicly, this is public knowledge, that UCLA Special Collections and their amazing state-of-the-art facility is out of space right now in their archives on campus. So it happens all the time to archives, and that's why we have to be very cognizant of what we take in, and why for me it's always so important to say that your most personal things are the most important. We cannot take fine art, for example. We don't have a facility, we don't have the security for it. We're in a very secure building. We're really the only ones on the floor we're on, and you have to have a little card to get up there. But we do not take fine art because we can't, protect it and keep it the way fine art should be stored. So, but we do have many artists in the archives who donate copies of all their work, a lot of their work. So,
Photos of their work, that sort of thing too. If you're an artist and you want to be remembered in a lesbian archive, taking those photos of your work, even if, I know some artists who take, they sell their art, but they take photos of their art before they sell it. And so that kind of a scrapbook could be really critical for a lesbian archive or a community archive.
right. So you,
Depending.
your life, and your work will be remembered in that way.
Yeah, yeah. And we hear, I mean, Angela, I'm surprised you haven't told this story yet, but we hear stories, I hear stories all the time. I couldn't take these letters because I didn't want anybody to see that I was a lesbian, and so I burned them all. Like, there's so much that, you know, lesbians move all the time, right? How many of us have moved? How many times? And we've had to divest ourselves of materials as we go along, and how much of that is lost because we threw it in the dumpster because we were in a hurry and we didn't want to spend the time to try to, we didn't have the room, we didn't have the capacity to move it 4 states over or whatever it was that we were doing. Um, so that's
Well,
another
we Mev,
thing.
Mev, you and I have been talking a lot because we're going to this lesbian conference later this month. I mean, next month, just about exactly what you're talking about. And um, lesbians have so many reasons not to donate their things historically, right? Because we used to be illegal, we used to be mentally ill, we used to be able to get arrested just for walking down the street. So, like my landladies, when I asked them, "Did you ever think of donating to the archives?" They're like, "No, we hid our stuff. If we took photos, we kept them in a box. We didn't even put them out where people could come into the house and see that we were lesbians back then." So, that's a big problem when collecting these great artifacts from marginalized people in a sexist world, also.
So I just put the link to the where you can send your stuff. Um, so so you could decide you want to send it to a lesbian library or an archive, or you could send it to if you're more feminist women oriented, you could do that. There's also some LGBTQ. Some are regional. So for example, Wanderground, we really want stuff from New England. The Southern Feminist Archives, they're more Southern, and so Bay Area, many archives, Lesbian History Archives in New York has historically taken just about anything and everything. So, again, space. And I don't, just to put an asterisk on this, not only are we all running out of space, but y'all know this current administration has killed any funding for humanities and the arts. So many of us who depended on those grants to support the work that we are doing no longer can get those funds because they're not like the grant that we just finished was from humanities, from the Rhode Island Humanities. Fortunately, we were able to use all the funds before they and now they're not taking any more grant, they're not offering any more grants because they don't have the funds to do it. So the long-term preservation of some of what we're doing is something that we always have to think about. So that's just another parenthetical kind of the situation that we're in, for many of us, that the funding is not there, in many cases.
So, Mav, did you just put the link to your list of the archives everywhere? Is that
Yes,
what you
this
were
is
saying? Yeah,
Yes, I
that's
just put
great.
it in the chat, and it's also on the OLOC website. So if you go to the OLOC website under resources and you click on that, then you will see it there. And when we put the video up for this event, the list is also there. So, and if you can't find it, email me and I will send it to you. But it has and I see Christine, you put state universities and so on are interested, and that may be true. Just know that universities are in the same pickle that the rest of us are in terms of funding and staffing and the ability to hold on to stuff. My personal experience with university archives is that it's hard for the common dyke off the street to gain access to those places. So, for various and sundry reasons, if you're not a member of that university community or whatever, it's not that you can't. They say that they're open to the public, and it's not that you can't. It's just sometimes difficult.